Have you bought this crochet kit from Kmart? Are you completely confused by the instructions? If so, know that you're not alone. Throw the instructions away, watch this tutorial instead, and I'll show you how to make this little Christmas tree, because making should be mellow. Okay, so this is everything that you get included in the kit. There's a large ball of dark green yarn, some smaller balls of brown and a more pine coloured green. There's a little bit of yellow and a little bit of this kind of sage green. They include a 4mm hook, some mini pom-poms, a couple of stitch markers, and a plastic tapestry needle. There's also some polyfill for stuffing the Christmas tree. Now I'm a bit surprised, this kit seems to be a little bit different from the typical Kmart kits. They seem to have potentially included slightly better quality materials than what I'm used to seeing in these kits. So the crochet hook they include, for example, is much better looking than the ones they typically include. We'll see how it actually works. Also seems like they've got quite a lot of yarn, which is good. Be interesting to see whether the instructions are any better. Also interestingly, this one has a 4mm hook. Almost every single other Kmart kit I've done has included a 2.5mm hook, just seems to be their default size hook. So it's interesting that this one's got a much larger hook. Okay, so for the main part of the Christmas tree, this is kind of what we're making. So essentially it's these little layers of the Christmas tree. Each layer has a point and a kind of scalloped edge around the outside, and then they just sit on top of each other to form the basis of the Christmas tree. Now I'm actually going to show you how to make the bottom piece, or the very last piece, and the reason for that is once you've done the bottom piece, then you should be able to make all the other pieces because they're exactly the same, just with fewer rows. Okay, so to start you want to do a magic ring. Now magic rings are quite tricky, they can take a little bit to get used to doing. I've included down in the description below a beginner's tutorial for how to do a magic ring, so feel free to check that out if you want a slower tutorial or if you're just really struggling to get the hang of it. In that video I also show an alternative approach you can use if you're just struggling to get the hang of the magic ring. But essentially you want to hold your yarn tail facing down in your left hand between your thumb and your first finger. Then you want to grab the piece of yarn that's attached to the ball and wrap it around your first two fingers, underneath, and then over the top into a cross like so, and just hold that in place with your third finger. So you'll have an X on top, underneath you'll have two bars of yarn including your little tail. Then you want to take your crochet hook, go under the first strand of yarn, grab the second strand of yarn with the head of your crochet hook and just pull it through towards your fingernails, and then twist your hook and push it through so you're sitting on top like so. Try and keep this a little bit loose because we're going to need to pull some yarn through it. And then our final step is this little strand of yarn here. We're going to grab that with the head of our crochet hook and we're just going to pull that through the loop on our hook. And that's a magic circle. I should say as well, I've switched to using my own crochet hook. This is my Clover Amour 4mm, just because I find these hooks are much nicer to work with than the ones they include in the kit. Hi, I just wanted to quickly jump in here to tell you that I am very excited to have launched my own Learn How to Crochet kit. So if you're getting frustrated with your Kmart kit at any point and you want to upgrade to a kit that has better materials and better quality instruction, be sure to check out my Learn How to Crochet kit in my YouTube storefront or on Etsy or madeit.com.au. I'll include a little bit more information about the kit and what you can expect at the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching. Okay, now for round one, we're going to start by doing 6 double crochets into the magic circle. So when we're working into the magic circle, we're just inserting our hook right into the middle of the circle instead of inserting it into a stitch. To do a double crochet, you want to yarn over, so drape the yarn from behind your hook over the top, and then you're going to insert your hook into the magic circle, like so. You're going to yarn over again, so just drape the yarn over your crochet hook, catch it in the head of the hook and pull it through the circle. Then you'll have 3 loops on your hook. You want to yarn over and just pull through the first of those 2 loops. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. And that's a double crochet. Now you want to use one of your stitch markers to mark this stitch because it's the first stitch of the round. And then we're going to do 5 more double crochets all into the middle of the magic circle, so 6 double crochets in total. Again, I've included a link to a beginner's tutorial down below for how to do a double crochet if you need a slower tutorial or if you're brand new to crochet. But again, just yarn over, insert your hook into the magic circle, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we'll do this 6 times in total. Then once you've done your 6 double crochets, you can just pull on the little tail of your magic ring and it will close your work up into a little semicircle like so. Then we're going to do a slip stitch to join the round. So to do that, you just want to insert your hook into the stitch where your stitch marker is. So that's just under both prongs of the V. So on the top of your stitch you'll see a little V. You want to go under both prongs of that V on top of the base of the stitch. Then you're going to yarn over, so drape the yarn over your crochet hook and pull it through the stitch. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, and you're going to pull this loop through the one that was already on our hook. And that's a slip stitch, and that just joins our round together. Now if you're new to crochet, I recommend actually using a second stitch marker to mark the last real stitch of the round, because it can be really easy to confuse the slip stitch for a real stitch. So you want to ignore that slip stitch that we just did and then put your stitch marker into the stitch after that. And just to double check you've got them in the right stitches, there should be 6 stitches including the 2 with the stitch markers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then for round 2 we're going to start by chaining 1. So to chain 1 you just want to yarn over and pull that yarn through the hook. That is a chain stitch. Then we're going to do double crochet increases into each stitch around. So that means we're doing 2 double crochets into every one stitch from round 1. So we'll yarn over and do a double crochet in the first stitch, the stitch with our stitch marker, and we'll move our stitch marker into that stitch that we've just done, as that's the first stitch of round 2. And because this is an increase, we want to do a second double crochet into the same stitch. So to see where you're inserting your hook, just follow the stitch that we've just done back into its base, and that's the gap there that you want to go back into. And we'll do a second double crochet. And then we just repeat this around. So into the next stitch we'll do another 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So by the end of this round you should have 12 stitches, because we're doing 2 into each of the 6 from round 1. Then when you get to your stitch with the stitch marker, you know that's your last stitch. So you can do 2 double crochets into that stitch and move your stitch marker into that final one. Then we're going to close off this round in the same way, so we're just going to slip stitch back into that first stitch that has our stitch marker in it to complete the round. Now for round 3, we're going to start with a chain 1 into the first stitch, so the one with our stitch marker. We're going to do a single double crochet, so just the 1 double crochet, and we'll move our stitch marker into that stitch. Then we're going to move on to the second stitch, and into that second stitch we're going to do an increase, so 2 double crochets into that second stitch. Into the third stitch we're just going to do the 1 double crochet, and into the fourth an increase. So essentially we're just alternating between doing single double crochets and doing increases, or 2 double crochets. So again, double crochet, increase. And by the end of this round you should have 18 stitches. Your last stitch of the round should be an increase, and if it's not, you might have lost count somewhere. Again, we just close off this round in the same way. I will just pause here to note the reason we're putting this stitch into the last stitch is because it can be really easy to confuse these stitches here for real stitches, but actually this is our slip stitch and this was our chain 1. And so by putting your moving your stitch markers into the first and last double crochet of the round, it'll just help you keep track of when you're at the end of your round. Then for round 4, again we're going to start with the chain 1. Into the first stitch we're going to do a double crochet, into the second stitch we're going to do an increase, and into the third stitch we're going to do a double crochet. And then we're going to repeat this pattern around, so double crochet, increase, double crochet, double crochet, increase, double crochet. And just repeat that pattern of 3 all the way around. You'll do that 6 times in total and you'll have 24 stitches by the end of the round. And finish this round off in the same way with a slip stitch back to the first stitch. And we'll start round 5 with another chain 1. The pattern we're following for round 5 is 3 double crochets in a row followed by an increase. So into the first stitch, double crochet, into the second stitch, double crochet, and into the third stitch, double crochet, and into the fourth we'll do an increase. Repeat that pattern of 4 all the way around. And close off this round in the same way. Okay, for round 6 we're going to chain 1. We're going to do double crochets in the first 2 stitches. Going to do an increase in the third, followed by double crochets in the next 2. And then we'll just repeat that around. So double crochet, increase, double crochet, double crochet. By the end of this round you'll have 36 stitches, and we'll close off this round in the same way with a slip stitch. For round 7, start by chaining 1, then you'll do 5 double crochets followed by an increase. You'll repeat this pattern 6 times in total. You'll have 42 stitches by the end of round 7 and just slip stitch to join in the same way as we have for the other rounds. Then for round 8, start with a chain 1, double crochet in the first 3 stitches. Followed by an increase, and another 3 double crochets in the next 3 stitches. and then just start that pattern again, 3 double crochets, increase 3 double crochets. And by the end of round 8 you should have 48 stitches. Okay, then for round 9, which is our final round, we're going to do the little scallop detail that goes around the edge. So we'll start with a chain 1. Into the first stitch we'll do a single crochet. So to do a single crochet you insert your hook, so no yarning over before, yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through both of those loops. Just move your stitch marker. Then into the second stitch we're going to do a double crochet, then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to do another double crochet back into the same stitch. Then into the next stitch we'll do a single crochet, and then into the fourth we'll do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And that just creates this little scallop detail. So we're just going to repeat that around, alternating between single crochets and then a combination of a double crochet, a chain 1 and a double crochet into the same stitch. Okay, and then once you get all the way back around, we'll close off this round in the same way with a slip stitch back into that first single crochet. Then we need to fasten off. So for that you'll need a pair of scissors, and you just want to cut a yarn tail. Leave a decent yarn tail because we're going to use this to sew the levels of the Christmas tree together. Just cut that off, and then to fasten off you just want to yarn over and pull the yarn tail all the way through the loop and pull it tight to secure. Now the final step is just to weave in our yarn tails. So you'll have a little yarn tail here poking through. The side that the yarn tail is poking through is actually the wrong side, so this is the inside of the Christmas tree. You want it facing out this way, but push it through to the wrong side, and then you just want to thread this onto your tapestry needle. And basically we just want to weave it through our stitches so that it doesn't come undone. So there's no perfect science to weaving in your ends. You just want to go under probably at least 4 or 5 stitches, and you want to work in at least 3 different directions to make sure it doesn't come undone. And then you just want to do the same with the final yarn tail. Now we can sew all of our bits of our Christmas tree together so that they are all attached. I'm not actually going to do that. I think this might make a kind of fun stacking toy for my toddler. But if you do want to sew these bits together, then you probably want to work your weaving in of this final yarn tail in so that it's poking out somewhere sort of in the middle or towards the center of your little triangle. So if you are going to sew your Christmas tree together, then leave your longer yarn tail and you can just trim the shorter one off because you'll only need the one to attach it. If you're not going to sew them together like me, then you can actually trim both of your yarn tails off. Okay, so then essentially you just want to repeat this process as per the instructions written on the screen. So each of your layers is just like the bottom layer, except it will have fewer rows. Each layer ends with the row of single crochets, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, because that creates that scallop detail. So your each section will always end on that row, but the number of rows you do before that will be fewer, depending on which size you're doing. The 2 smallest ones you want to do in the light sage green colour, the 2 next ones you'll do in the brighter green colour, and then the biggest 3 you'll do in the dark green. Then once you've done all your Christmas sections, like I said, you can sew these together if you like, in which case you just want to thread your yarn tail onto your tapestry needle and just sew through all of the layers, working backwards and forwards a few different times, making sure that your sewing up is hidden underneath, and you can just finish that off with a knot. Okay, next we need to make the star. So to make the star you want the yellow yarn, and we're going to start the star with another magic circle. So again, just yarn tail hanging down between your thumb and first finger. Wrap it around your first two fingers, underneath and over the top. Under this top strand of yarn, grab the second strand of yarn, pull it through and twist it on top, and then grab this strand of yarn and pull that through the loop on your hook. Okay, then we're going to do 10 single crochets into the magic circle. So again, to work into the magic circle, you just insert your hook in the middle of the circle, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and just do that 10 times in total. Then when you've done your 10 single crochets, you can just pull on your yarn tail to close it up. And we're going to join the round with a slip stitch. So again, just into that first stitch, yarn over and pull that yarn through the loop on your hook. Then for round 2, we're going to start with a chain 1. And then into this first stitch, the one with our stitch marker, we're going to do a half double crochet, a double crochet, a chain 1, double crochet, another half double crochet. So to do a half double crochet, you yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. So this is just like how you would start a double crochet, but the difference is with a half double crochet is we're just going to yarn over once and pull through all 3 loops. So that's a half double crochet. Then we'll do a double crochet back into the same stitch, so back into this gap here. Then we'll chain 1, another double crochet, and a half double crochet, all still into that first stitch. Then into the next stitch we'll do a slip stitch, so just go into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the one on the hook. And then we'll just repeat this, so into the next stitch we'll do half double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, half double crochet. And then into the next stitch, a slip stitch, and then just repeat this all the way around. So you'll do it 5 times in total, and you'll have 5 points to your star. Then to finish off, you just want to slip stitch back to that first stitch and fasten off. So we'll just cut a yarn tail and pull that all the way through. And then we just want to weave in our ends. Now if your magic circle has opened up a little bit like mine has, you can just pull on that yarn tail to close it up. So I suggest weaving in this yarn tail because you don't want this one to come undone, but you can actually leave this yarn tail because we can use it to sew the star onto the top of our Christmas tree. Okay, now the last step is for us to make the trunk. So for that you'll need the brown yarn, and again we're starting with a magic circle. So yarn tail facing down, wrap it around your first 2 fingers into an X. Under this top strand, grab the second strand, pull it through, twist it on top, and grab this strand and pull that through. Now the trunk is done with single crochets rather than double crochets, and the first row is 6 single crochets into the magic circle. So once you've done your 6 single crochets, again just pull on the yarn tail to close it up and slip stitch back to that first stitch to join. Now you can follow the instructions on the screen. So for round 1 you'll start with a chain 1, then you'll do a single crochet increase into each stitch. So that just means you're doing 2 single crochets into each stitch. You'll do that all the way around and slip stitch to join. You'll have 12 stitches by the end of round 2. For round 3, you'll chain 1, you'll do a single crochet in the first stitch, an increase in the second stitch, and you'll just alternate between single crochets and single crochet increases 6 times in total, slip stitch to join, and you'll have 18 stitches by the end of round 3. For round 4, you'll also start with a chain 1, single crochet in the first stitch, single crochet increase in the next stitch, single crochet in the third stitch. Repeat that pattern of 6 times, join with a slip stitch, and you'll have 24 stitches by the end of round 4. For round 5, you'll chain 1, single crochet in the first 3 stitches, do a single crochet increase in the 4th stitch, then repeat that pattern 6 times, join, and you'll have 30 stitches by the end of round 5. And then I'll meet you back here at the end of round 5 to show you how to work under the back loop only. Okay, so I've just finished row 5. Now for row 6, we're going to be doing single crochets all the way around, but instead of working under both prongs of the V like we typically would, we're going to work under the back loop only. So normally when you insert your hook into the stitch, you're going under the V like so under both the front and the back prong of the stitch. But instead we're just going to be working under the back loop, which means instead of going under both prongs, you're just going under that back prong. So you're inserting your hook into the middle of the V on the top of the stitch and just going under that back prong. And you still do a single crochet as normal. And you'll do this into each single crochet all the way around. So again, just go into the middle of the V under that back loop only. So you're just doing one single crochet into each stitch, so no increases, and you're just working under that back loop, and you'll do that all the way around for row 6. And when you'll do that, you'll see that there's now a ridge of stitches here. You can see this line, and they are essentially the front loops that we haven't worked into. So the reason we're just working under the back loop for this row is that it creates this nice little edge which will essentially form the base of our trunk. And then at the end of this round, you want to slip stitch back to the start to join, and chain 1 for the start of the next round. Now for round 7, we are going to do single crochets all the way around again, but this time we're going to go under both prongs of the V as normal. So just go back to doing a regular single crochet, 30 in total. And then you just want to repeat this for rows 8 through to 16. So each row going just under both prongs of the V all the way around, single crochet into each stitch, slip stitch to join at the end of each round, and chain 1 at the start of the next round, making sure to move your stitch markers each round so you can keep track of where you're up to. And I'll meet you back here at the end of row 16. Okay, once you've finished with row 16, you should have something that looks like this. Then you just want to join the end of your round with a slip stitch and fasten off. So again, we just cut a yarn tail, yarn over, and pull that all the way through. Okay, so now we've got all of our pieces and we just need to assemble our Christmas tree. So firstly, you want to weave in your initial yarn end on your trunk, if you haven't already done that. Now you don't need to trim this one because it will form part of the stuffing of our trunk. So just push it through to the right side. That's the side with the visible row where we did the back loops only. You want to leave this yarn tail, however, because we'll use that to attach the trunk to the Christmas tree. And then you just want to take your polyfill and stuff it into the trunk. They give you more than you need, so don't feel the need to use all of it, just enough to give it some shape. And then you want to take your biggest piece of your Christmas tree, and we're just going to sew the trunk onto the Christmas tree. So the way to do that is just to grab your yarn tail on the trunk and thread it onto your tapestry needle. And then to sew the pieces together, you just want to make sure it's centered in the underside, so you'll want the cone piece pointing out. And then you're just going to work around the edge of the green piece, going under a stitch on the green, Try to sort of go halfway through a stitch rather than all the way through, just so that the brown yarn doesn't show through on the outside. And then pull that through, and then you want to go up through a stitch on the trunk and then back down under the next stitch and then catch another stitch on the green. And you're just going to work like this all the way around until it is fully secure. And then once you've come all the way back around, I like to just secure my yarn with a knot. So just insert your needle under a stitch and pull up a loop, but don't pull it all the way through. And then just insert your needle into that loop and pull that tight. And then you can hide this yarn tail in the body of your trunk by just pulling your needle through somewhere else and pulling that yarn all the way through. And then you can trim this tail off and just wiggle it to hide that end. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can sew each of the layers onto the Christmas tree if you like. I'm going to leave mine loose so that they can kind of form like a stacking type toy. And then our final step is just to attach the star and then also the little baubles. So we're just going to sew the star on using this remaining yarn tail onto the top of the smallest sets of leaves. And I'm just going to knot this on this side as well. And then our final touch is these little baubles. They have included some little sticky dots. I'm a little bit suspicious of how well these are going to stick, but we'll give them a go. I think if you've got a hot glue gun or something like that, that'll probably work a little bit better. So with these little sticky dots, you just have to peel both sides of the paper. It is quite fiddly, but once you get it off, they do seem to stick okay. So then just continue this way until you're happy with the placement of your little baubles, your little ornaments, and your little Christmas tree is done. Thanks so much for watching this video. I really hope that you found it useful. And if you made it to this point in the video, I'm so grateful. You are my people, and I am so glad that you found your way here. And if this project has got you hooked on crochet, be sure to like and subscribe for more info and inspo for new crochet makers. Also, if you're really wanting to master the art of crochet, be sure to check out my Learn How to Crochet kit in my YouTube storefront. So this kit is a little bit different from others that you'll find in the market. I've designed this kit more like a Learn How to Crochet masterclass in a box. And by that I mean that I've specifically designed the patterns so that they are ideal for beginners, cover all of the major stitches and techniques that you'll want to master when you're starting out. What this means is that by the end of the kit, you'll be able to tackle basically any beginner, advanced beginner, and even some intermediate crochet projects. So in this kit, you'll learn things like how to keep your edges straight, how to manage your tension, how to seam, and even how to do some color work. Each pattern builds on the skills that you learned in the previous pattern so that your confidence and your skill set will grow as you work through the kit. And by the end of the kit, you'll have some great little items that you can use around your house. The kit is also designed to teach you how to read a crochet pattern because I've included detailed long form written instructions alongside short form notation in the format that crochet patterns are typically written, along with detailed step-by-step tutorials. It also includes troubleshooting support and other handy tips and tricks. I've also designed the projects to expose you to different types of fibres, different styles of crochet, and different hook sizes. So you can start to learn what you really enjoy to crochet with. So make sure you go and check it out and let me know what you think. If you want to say thanks for any tutorial that you found useful, you can buy me a coffee, which is linked down in the description below. Thank you so much for crocheting with me today, and happy crafting!